Welcome, everybody, to the Healthy Adjacent, the check-in with Daniel Moody and myself, Jared J. Sexton, a show where a couple of friends hang out on their lunch breaks and talk about life under progressing fascism. Danielle and I were talking before we started recording about our feelings regarding what happened. We're recording this on Wednesday, October 1st. What happened yesterday with the... I'm a writer and I don't even really have words to describe it properly. But we both said that we were going to work this thing out together, live in front of hundreds of people and eventually thousands of people. Danielle, my friend, it's good to see you. How are you? What are you feeling?
Jared, I texted you yesterday. I text Jared yesterday because I was in it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I love that we're at a place where a friend will text you, what the fuck is going on? How are you feeling? And both of you know immediately what it is that you're talking about.
Oh, right. Oh, because there was no context.
No, you gave me no context. We both knew.
I think I texted and I said, are you watching this right now? Are you seeing this? Because I started to lose it yesterday. And I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that because I said it last night on the Danielle Moody show. I was in tears yesterday because I guess I have to be grateful, Jared, for the ability to still be shocked because that means that I'm not numb. I have to be grateful for the ability to still conjure tears because it still means that I have the capacity to feel and be outraged. And I think that that is an important emotion and an important thing to be able to hold on to, because the point of this type of onslaught is about beating you into obedience, beating you into compliance. And for you to be able to accept your subjugation, there has to be a deep disassociation and a deep numbing that comes from that capitulation. My ability to still cry, to still rage, means that there's still some fire that exists inside me. And so I just was so fucking outdone, disgusted, embarrassed, incensed, and grief-stricken at what I saw yesterday. It was a white nationalist propaganda campaign rally that our top military brass was subjected to. There were Black people, Black men in that audience, women in that audience, queer people in that audience that were subjected to the absurdity of this regime. And I just, for them, I am deeply I'm deeply mortified for them. And then to everyone looking around the world, my God. I don't say this lightly, and I curse all the time and I say these words, but truly, honestly, in my heart, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are absolute scum. They are absolute scum. They are the dredges of the earth and society. They are the smallest, most inconsequential, disgusting human beings ever. And to look at them is, for me, somebody just put in the chat, demons. I am not a religious person, and I know that you have come from a religious space, but honestly, there is just pure evil in those people, pure fucking evil. So that's how I felt yesterday. You?
Well, I'm glad you... So the thing is, I was thinking about, and we're both this way. We do so many different things, and we're having to react to this and provide analysis for it. I was thinking about how was I going to talk about this today? I do the Muckrake podcast on Thursdays. I was thinking, obviously, we're going to cover it, and I was thinking about it, and I want to acknowledge one thing first. There is so much to discuss about that piece of shit display that we saw yesterday. And there's so many things that you and I, what we do in the check-in, that I think that we need to get into, right? Because it was an intensely complicated, bizarre thing that made us feel so many different things. And I want to say first, as sort of a thesis statement, the reason why we felt the way we did yesterday, and the reason why people watching this felt the way they did yesterday, is because that was actually a very big occasion. That was actually a landmark in what we're dealing with. We have a dictator who's trying to create a dictatorship. And one of the things that you have to do in order to create a dictatorship is to use the power of the state through the military, law enforcement, in order to crush opposition. We pay attention to this stuff. The people who pay attention to what we have to say is a self-selecting group of people who take this seriously and are watching what happens. What did we watch? It was an attempt to consolidate power underneath Donald Trump to create a spectacle that would terrify Americans, right? That would also create a larger sort of feeling of amplified power. This is what authoritarians do, right? That's what we watched. On top of that, knowing that, and by the way, the dictator in fucking waiting told us what he intends to do.
Right.
He told us he intends to use the military against American citizens, period. And, called us the enemy within. That comes after months of watching all the plans come into place, everything from the surveillance state to occupying American cities, talking about not caring about the Constitution. So if you actually look at this logically, it's point A, B, C, D, E, F. Now all of a sudden we're at G, right? That's what we watched. Period. We're not being paranoid. We're actually taking this thing seriously. There are added components that one of these big spectacles creates, right? Which you have to understand what happened, why it happened. But then we as individuals, we have reactions to it. Disgust is one of them. It makes me fucking disgusted and nauseous that you and me and the people that I care about are living in a country where this is being done to us. It repels me to see open displays of hatred and misogyny and ableism and just a lack of human dignity. Yeah. I hate these people. And I don't like hating people. I fucking hate these people. Yep. Period. The next part of it is there's a weird feeling of not only do I hate these people, you know what I fucking resent, Danielle? I resent, because I started watching it in the morning and then I caught up with it later. Pete Hegseth is so inadequate and so incompetent and so laughable and so disgusting. And to watch him preening around a stage thinking that he deserves to be there, thinking that you have hundreds, close to thousands of people who have worked their way through the ranks of the military. And you can feel it that they're like, why the fuck am I here?
Yep.
Like, who is this Fox and Friends asshole who is talking to me? There's a tension in that. And then the other thing, and again, we have to dissect all of this. There's so much to do in this episode and conversation. Donald Trump gets up there. And Danielle, you know what drives me crazy about this? He wants to be a dictator.
And he wants the applause.
And you know what the third thing is? He doesn't want to fucking work for it.
None of them do.
That's the thing that drives me insane about this. Mm-hmm. The man didn't even actually kind of really want to be president. He just sort of backed into it.
Yep.
And then he doesn't want to do the work of being president. He just wants it to happen. He doesn't read his briefings. He doesn't study. He doesn't take any of this stuff seriously. He gets up in front of the head of the military that he wants to be the weapon of his dictatorship.
Yep.
He can't even give a serious speech. He can't even not deviate. He can't even be an absurdity. He has to get up there and fucking wing it. The most entitled, immature, stupid piece of shit. And it pisses me off that not only are we dealing with a wannabe dictator that we have to defeat, we're dealing with an incompetent, unserious, lazy, entitled piece of shit. And there are so many feelings that come with that. And it makes it clearer why we're in this position. It makes it clearer not only is it bad enough that we have to fight for freedom and democracy and our lives? We have to fight the most incompetent, ineffectual, least serious human. And that is so emotionally dysregulating and
Yes.
confusing. And you know it shouldn't be the case. You know that we shouldn't be in this situation. And yet here we are, and there are so many layers of feelings that come from this thing. Realization of what it is that we're fighting with, resentment, hatred, anger, just absolute frustration that we're even in this situation. And like you and I, everyone watching this, everyone who knows what's going on, we have to work through that.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big, complicated, big mishmash of bullshit things that we shouldn't have to deal with. And yet here we are, and it's something that we have to deal with.
I kept thinking to myself too, like just listening to you and like replaying Hegseth jumping around that stage like a rabid fox. I kept thinking about Donald Trump literally holding on to the podium. The podium was holding him up, by the way, because Donald Trump looks unwell, right? He looks unwell. And I said this multiple times yesterday. He also sounded like he was slurring. Right? Like, and I'm just like, he doesn't drink, so he's not drunk, which leads me to believe there is neurological deterioration that is happening.
He's falling apart in real time.
He's falling apart, and you can see it. And I mean, the way that, do you know what I'm saying? Like, folks, go back and look at the image of him like gripping the podium and kind of hunched over it. He's not standing at the podium at a lectern speaking out. He is holding on for dear life. So you just take that imagery in, and then the hateful rhetoric that was dripping out of their mouths like rabid fucking dogs, just like wanting these generals to be excited by their talk of vengeance and vitriol and enemies and warriors, and like that this is what they think about our military. These people that are highly educated, highly skilled, and highly trained, the best in the world, was sitting in that audience. Now, whatever I think about personally, think about the military industrial complex, think about how much money we spend and blah, blah, put that aside. You cannot argue that these are the best people in the world having to sit there and be dictated to from on high by literally the worst people in the world, the most incompetent, the most the least intellectually curious and astute, like just to be run amok by morons. And I thought to myself, I said, you know, I say this all the time, but the best thing that ever happened to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney's legacy is Donald Trump,
100%.
right? It is the best thing that ever happened to the both of them, who entered us into a war based on a lie, committed war crimes, and then got off scot-free and got to remake their image, their character, regardless of the tens of thousands, if not millions of lives that they cost, right? And that's just the shit we do know. Dick Cheney, though, not a dummy. Wasn't a dummy, right? The people that were in Bush's cabinet, Bush himself put that aside. You're a figurehead. Everyone else,
Serious.
whether or not I agreed with them, which I absolutely did not, I thought that their policies were abhorrent. Those were serious people doing serious shit that have been in and around government and the military for decades, their entire careers. Donald Trump has surrounded himself with reality TV fucking stars, with the most flaccid and vacant human beings that one could put up around you. It is not even a veneer. Like it is just, it's so insulting to us as a fucking country. It's so insulting to the world that this caravan of fucking reality TV, junk food, fucking like people are who represents us now. And so to see them, I mean, there are so many layers the misogyny that was present, that shows absolutely nothing that you know about the military, because there is no male standard versus a female standard. There is the U.S. military standard, and that's it. And either you hit it or you hit the fucking road. Like, that's it. So the disrespect that was on display towards our most skilled, highly trained, efficient military leaders, it was like, the only solace that I had, Jared, and it was only because of their professionalism in a nonpartisan body, was their silence. I found such joy in their absolute stoicism and their silence, because I feel like, my God, I hope that their code holds. I hope it does, because we're at literally the last line of defense here.
And I want to say, and you kind of alluded to it, but I want to make it clear, because sometimes in a conversation like this, it's important to set a baseline. I think the military-industrial complex is one of the worst things that's ever happened in this country. We wouldn't have arrived at this point if it wasn't for the military-industrial complex. That's what laid the foundation for us to eventually come to this point. I think it needs to be eradicated. I think it needs to be scattered to the ends of the earth. And I think that we should be investing in social programs. I think we should be investing in people. But there's something that we have to talk about here that you started to touch on. Generals and high military officers are educated, serious people. You don't get to that point unless you have earned it within the institution that you're a part of. And on top of that, you develop a pretty strong bullshit detector. And what has happened since Donald Trump started running for president? He has disrespected the military and veterans one time after another. He built his entire campaign off of saying John McCain was a loser and I prefer people who get captured. He called veterans of D-Day losers and suckers. Everybody knows this. The military knows it. And, you know, people will say, is the military more Republican or Democrat? That blends it down to a place where we're not talking about something, which is that the military is its own constituency. The military has one thing that they want to do. And guess what, Danielle? All of this woke shit that Hegseth and Trump were talking about, it wouldn't be in place in the military if the people didn't have studies to understand it made the military better.
Yep.
They look at studies. Donald Trump doesn't look at studies. Hegseth doesn't look at studies. These people don't know these things. The generals who were in that room, they knew that there was bullshit being peddled on them. So now we have another question. And I want to take a quick little side and then come back to what I was saying. Danielle, what we are experiencing at this point, and we talk all the time about how family and personal and relational dynamics have scaled out to the national and the global. This is the equivalent of a bunch of people being out to dinner in a family and a father suddenly being abusive and not making sense. And the people at the table have to make a choice afterwards. Hey, what's going on with dad? Did you see that? Did you notice that something was weird here? And other people being like, nothing's going on here. Everything's fine. Being in denial about it. And other people saying, no, there's a serious problem here and we need to address it. Right? So now let's move back to the military. There's an issue here. And the issue is, and I saw somebody say in the comments, and this is something that I kind of see every now and then on social media. It's like a military coup would take care of it. Guess what? You don't bring the military, all of your majors, they all had to fly from around the world to come to Washington, D.C. And when I heard about this, Danielle, I thought maybe this was meetings about Putin. Maybe it was.
I knew it.
But you know what I mean? At first, like, at least there might be like maybe they'll give a speech or something. Maybe there will be a component of this. They brought these people in, which undoubtedly the officers who got brought in are resentful of having to be brought in for this shit. They have to be brought in to hear this shit. The president of the United States is unserious. He talks about the elections and how popular he is and all of that the entire time. Then you have a Secretary of Defense. They know he shouldn't be there. They know that he isn't qualified to do this. So now all of a sudden we have a split problem, which is, on one hand, will the military do things that are illegal and unconstitutional when they're asked to do it? And in fascistic power grabs, there's always a moment where the military has to make a decision. And, all of a sudden, are they in a civilian command? Do they respect their command? And are they going to do it? We will have that moment. We will have that moment in which our military makes a choice about whether or not they
Yeah.
will follow,
Whether they're gonna shoot,
whether
right?
they're going to disappear and shoot people. They're going to have to
Yeah.
make that decision. On top of that, the military, because of the military industrial complex, has been made so large that they don't see themselves always tethered to the rules of everything. This is why, when you have dictators taking over, oftentimes a military coup will stop them. And guess what happens when a military coup takes over, Danielle? They don't hand back power. They're not just like, hey, we saved everything. Good luck with democracy. Now, all of a sudden, we have a new component of the situation that brings into question. And guess what, Danielle? If you're an aspiring dictator and you bring all of the military officers in for a meeting, do you think that they're not talking? Do you think that
This
after
is yeah.
they're
That
all in Virginia or Washington D.C. You don't think that they're having dinner and someone at the table isn't like, "Hey, we need to talk about what's going on. That was fucked."
and they also know who to talk to.
And they
They
know
know how to talk to that person, and they know how to do it. Guess what? Off the fucking grid.
off the fucking grid. So now, because of the incompetence and unseriousness of the dictator that we're dealing with, we now have a situation where his incompetence and his unseriousness now opens the door for another component to come into play. And you want to know, like, I brought up the dad said something weird at dinner, or like something else is going on in a familial situation. We talked about magical thinking, I think, last week. You know what happens with people who are in abusive situations? Sometimes while the abuser is out and about, they think to themselves, maybe they'll die in a car wreck today. Maybe they'll just drop dead and that
Oh
will fix
yeah.
the problem. And guess what a military coup is? Magical thinking. Somebody will fix this. Somebody will take care of this situation. So now, basically, what happened, we saw an escalation in terms of what Donald Trump was talking about with his authoritarian desires and projects. We now have another component where, oh my God, there are people in a room who know they're being disrespected, who take this seriously because they're serious people. And we have seen in the past that that oftentimes leads to anti democratic actions. So all of this is to say that the feeling that we're having, it's wild. And it has gotten so much more wild in so many different ways. And that's confusing and disorienting and activating. And so now we have to have a conversation, because this is what we do, about not only how it makes us feel, but the larger political and social implications of it. So this landmark, this thing that just happened, it just threw us in a washing machine. And all of a sudden, we're like, what the fuck? What is up? What is down? How do you deal with that? And that is another, we keep talking about the challenges. And this is yet another challenge on top of the other challenges. And it just feels like so much weight on top of each other.
It's so much.
It's
Like
so,
there are so, like you said, so many thoughtful things. And I think that the comparison to the dinner table with an abusive parent, and then the whispers after the abuse happens of trying to, one, assess what just happened, but then trying to create a strategy around how we either plan for it to happen again and try and stay as safe as possible, or the strategy to ensure it doesn't happen again. And I think that what we experienced yesterday is so emotionally jarring and deregulating and destabilizing, because that is the point. That has been the
yep,
consistent point of this administration. But what we have to reconcile with, and I think that it is something that is really hard, but I need for people to do. Donald Trump declared war on America.
yep.
This is not a hyperbolic statement. It is not a hypothetical. Donald Trump stood on a
That's word.
stage in front of our admirals and generals and declared war on America. So now that it is clear, even though you and I and many of our colleagues and comrades have been laying this out for years, that we would get here, now that it is clear and it was articulated in a way that you cannot pretend it didn't happen and what was said, and now that you have proof from your eyesight that the National Guard being called in and troops being on the ground in cities around this country is not just an illusion, that it is happening. This is the stand back and stand by moment. And so for the American people, we need, Jared, I believe, to suspend the magical thinking and thinking that there's going to be some type of Top Gun, a few good men, type of moment where the heroes come in and in the military and they save us. I think what I need people to understand is that this is on us now. You know the truth. You've been faced with the truth. And I have said so many times over, everyone is not making it to the other side of this. And I have been saying that, and it gives me no ease or comfort to say that, but it's the truth, right? It is the truth. Everybody is not making it to the other side of this. But if in this moment, there are two choices that people have. For those that have privilege and the ability, fleeing is an option. For everybody else, it's time to buckle in. It's time to be 10 toes down. And folks keep saying, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to now, the government is shut down. How many people in your community are not going to be paid for the indefinite future? What does it look like to pool resources and food and start a meal train so that you make sure that people that are inside of your community, if you are quote unquote economically okay right now, and you know that there are people around you that are not, then what does it look like to start to gather your community together, your neighbors together one by one, and say, what do folks need, right? And begin there. Because people keep saying, like, what should we do? Marches are not everything.
Yep.
This is about community care. This is about collective action and resistance. This is about the fact that the last time the government shut down, it was shut down for 34 days. And the only reason why people came back to work, as I'm being told, is because the air traffic controllers said, we're not gonna fucking show up. Their goal was a government shutdown so that Donald Trump could finish the gut job that was started by Doge. Right? Like, we have to understand, we haven't had a functioning government in 8 months. The government's been hollowed out, right? So the fact is, what do people need to do right now? Let go of your magical thinking. Let go of this idea that some savior somewhere, whether it's the belief that Gavin Newsom is going to do it, or the military admirals are going to do it, or Obama's going to run a shadow presidency, or like whatever. All of that is Hollywood bullshit.
Yep.
What you need to start doing is look around you and start making phone calls with your neighbors and your friends and your colleagues about what do we need to do in this moment? Who is in need, right? And start building up your medicine for each other, not for yourself, not some hoarding bullshit, but for the collective, food, all of these things. Because we are now, Donald Trump declared war on us. So the response needs to be activation. Those are my thoughts.
You're 100% right. And there is the only analogy I can think of. I used to live in the South. I used to live in Georgia. And, I'm from the Midwest. I had no experience with hurricanes. And then I'll never forget this. It was 2016, actually, and it happened on my birthday. And it was the night of the Access Hollywood drop, which, by the way, magical thinking, everyone's like, well, Trump's done now, right? Like this.
Oh, that was me. That was me.
It's over now, right? And I will never forget it. It was like, I heard about this hurricane. I looked at the projections. And which, by the way, aren't really available anymore because they ripped all that up. I looked at it. I asked somebody who had gone through it before, I said, is this serious? And I was like, this is very serious. And so what do? You have a few days, right? You have a few days, and in those few days, you get things ready. You put up as much as you can. You get the supplies that you need. And guess what happened? The hurricane that got projected, it hit, and it hit hard. It hit exactly like the people I talked to told me that it was going to hit. The experts told me it was going to hit. Well, now all of a sudden we have a situation. We just got told where this train is going. We just got told what's going to happen. We now have, and I said this yesterday, I wrote an article about it. They don't always tell us what they're going to do. They do a lot of the time because they're incompetent and they can't keep their fucking mouths shut.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we need to take
100%.
advantage of the times where they can't keep their fucking mouths shut.
Yep.
And that was nationally broadcast. That's another thing, Danielle. That should not have been broadcast.
Nope. Sure shouldn't have been.
Wild that they thought that that would make a good TV moment because that's all that they care about.
That's all that they care about.
So what happened there is that we got some advanced knowledge. We got told what they intend to do. They were telling the people that they intend to do it. I can't tell you right now if it's going to be successful. I can tell you that they intend to try it. And I can tell you that not just because they told me, but because they've been doing it. Right? We've seen it now for months. So here's the thing. We can either say, oh my God, there is a storm coming that we need to prepare for. Or, and I'm sure you remember this, there was a period of time where the right wing down in Florida was like, we don't believe in hurricanes. And what happened to them? A lot of them died. A lot of them got hit.
They also didn't believe in COVID. So
and they believe in COVID. And the whole point of what I'm saying is that, and it goes back to something that you and I have been talking about, and I need to restate it. What we're talking about is being an adult, not being a child that is like everything's going to get taken care of for us. You know, if people doubt, I kept pointing to South Korea. They stopped a presidential coup. You know what just happened in Italy? The people in Italy and in
shut
France,
that shit down.
Spain, they shut the shit down. And you know what's happening right now? A flotilla is heading towards Gaza.
Yep.
And not only is it heading towards Gaza, it has protected
all the Navy, Greece, Spain, Italy, all of their Navy ships around it.
They all did it. And do you know why that happened? It wasn't because the head of Italy, out of the kindness of her heart, wanted to do it. She had been throwing Gazans under the bus all the time. The people got in the streets and they said, we're not going to eat this shit anymore. Yep. We're not going to stand by as this is happening. So we've seen it. Now it's not, and again, it's something that you and I have talked about a lot. America has a special case of denial, delusion, and fantasy. And this thing, to be completely frank, this thing could be over tomorrow. This thing could be done tomorrow. We could go out in the streets and shut everything down and bring it to a boil. The only thing that's keeping us from doing that is what you just brought up, which is mutual aid and collective action. But there's one other thing that we're not talking about. It's bravery. It's saying, I recognize what's going on. This is frightening. Some bad things could happen, but this is necessary. And we need to do these things. We were given a gift yesterday. It was disgusting. Yep. It was awful. And it is really dysregulating and really upsetting. We were given a gift yesterday, which is the dictator, because he is not serious, told us what he intends to do. Period. That is an incredible gift, and we cannot let that go. We cannot, let that go without some sort of a reaction or planning.
We have to be able to see the opportunities that are being presented inside of every obstacle that this regime is putting in our pathway. We have got to be able to look at our allies, whether or not Donald Trump considers them our allies. I know that inside of this country, we still consider Europe our allies. We have to look at what Italy is doing. We have to look at what happened in Nepal. We have to look at what happened in South Korea and say to ourselves, why not us? Right? Why not us? We have got to get to the place where we suspend the American naivete and this idea that somehow this is not our responsibility. Like, we didn't get here on accident, right? Like, this is not just a path of misfortune, right? These are conscious decisions that we, the American people, made over and over again over the last 10 plus years. And honestly, if you want to go back, it goes back further than that.
Yep.
But for, to concentrate it over the last 10 years, we made decisions that got us here. Right? And whether or not people want to say, well, I'm not political, that was a decision that you made that got us here. I don't vote. That was a decision that you made. Right? And so I think that courage is what we need. Courage is what we like to sing about in our national anthem, but it is not something that has ever been consistently instilled in us. Right? Because it is always somebody else's job to fix the thing. America is filled with a lot of naive children with childlike fantasies about heroism, about exceptionalism that needs to be torn away. And so until we can get to that place, this project is going to continue. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. If the American people mustered the strength of the Palestinian people, the strength of the Italian people, the strength of the South Koreans, the strength of the Nepalese youth, if they mustered the courage, you don't have to wait and pretend to yourself that 2026 is somehow gonna come. It's fucking not. We're not having an election. We're not having midterms. Right? They have shut this fucking government down so that they could finish the hit job on the country. And then when they have everything that they want, they're coming for our freedom. And they have built the camps and they have the space and they're just waiting to fill it up. So, people say, again, what can I do? What should I be doing? You need to gather your people, right? You need to gather your people. You need to make phone calls. You need to figure out what the fuck is going on outside your front door and prepare, right? Because this is the hurricane warning, right? This is the warning that we've been given that they are coming for us. So it's time that people begin to shed the rose-colored glasses, lift up the wool from your eyes, shake off the ignorance and the naivete that somehow elections are going to save us when Donald Trump just stood there and declared war on the American people.
It's the equivalent of somebody outside of America declaring war on America and everyone just being like, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, it literally is. The President of the United States of America said it in so many words. And by the way, for anyone thinking they're going to be okay, you are the enemy within that he spoke of. You know why? Because there are only a handful of people that are not the enemy within to Donald Trump and the people around him. And you ain't one of them. Unless Stephen Miller's watching the check-in. They're not one of them. It's coming for everybody. And you're right. There is a truth that we have to talk, which is that this is not going to be easy and this is not going to be painless. But America has suffered. America has suffered not from the mythology and the fairy tale that it's told it. That's part of it. We've suffered from the fact that, you look at Italy. Italy went through the years of lead. Italy went through the rise of fascism that hollowed out their country. There's a reason why they went out there. The Nepalese did what they did because they're part of the world that's been exploited by the United States. You know why the Gazans have responded the way that they have with such strength and endurance? It's because they've had to.
Yeah.
It's not, and people love to do this. They love to project people with a specialness of character. It's almost a eugenic racist thing. That's not what it is. There are certain communities and certain people who have had to live through things, and they've had to develop skills. And what's more, they've had to develop clarity. One of the reasons why you and I can have this conversation, and one of the reasons, and I would love for the people who are listening and watching to this, think about it. One of the reasons we take it seriously is because we've been through some shit. We haven't lived in a privileged fantasy. We haven't lived some sort of middle class white American mythology that has given them everything that they've wanted, and the system has worked for them. Which is the problem, is that the people who are supposed to be dealing with this don't believe it's happening because they are lost in their own childlike fantasy.
Yep.
That's all it is. The people who take this seriously are the people who have gone through some shit. And by the way, I'll go ahead and bring it up because we talk about these principles. I'll say the word here: trauma. Trauma not only is a painful thing and it keeps us from doing things, you do evolve from it. You do learn from it. You do develop certain skills from it. It's not about giving into it. It's about learning from the things that you've experienced. And what we're dealing with right now is the fact that America is maybe the most historically privileged country in human history. Since the rise of the nation state,
Speak
the
on it.
United States has been one of the most privileged places. And in our lifetimes, what has happened is that that privilege has grown and grown and grown, and now it's going to destroy us. That's what
Yes.
it is. We can't deal with any of the problems. We can't deal with the democratic crisis. We can't deal with the economic crisis. We can't deal with the societal crisis. We can't deal with the global climate change crisis. We can't deal with the rise of authoritarianism. Why? Because the skills you just talked about are not taught to us.
Yep.
Because it would have interrupted the bullshit. If we would have learned critical thinking as a culture, if we would have learned collective action, shit, if we had been taught what authoritarianism is, we wouldn't be in this situation. If we learned to take care of each other, we wouldn't be in this situation. We were atomized on purpose. We were like pitted against each other on purpose. We were pushed into personal, fetishistic, narcissistic fantasies in order to keep us from dealing with this. And you know what I'm seeing right now? Just one quick word on this. Chat GPT or whatever in the hell, OpenAI, they just released a brand new video thing that creates reality bending videos. People are losing their minds over making bullshit that doesn't matter to anybody because they can put themselves in scenes from their favorite video games and movies and TV shows. And meanwhile, it's the equivalent of dicking around while the house is on fire.
But that's the point of it being created in this moment.
That's the entire.
That's like that. The
That.
rise of AI happening at this
They're
same
the same.
time. It's the same.
It's the same. And so as a result, what is the offer that's being made here, Danielle? The offer is, yeah, shit is terrible. By the way, here is the best drug that you could ever possibly imagine
Come
and
on.
your own narcissistic fantasies. And so the rest of us are saying, hey, I know you like your video game. I know you like your AI. I know you like your shows. We need to get out of the house. It's on fire. And we are literally dealing with that.
It's like the best thing that people can do in this moment, like, and I mean this thoroughly, is to unplug. And I don't mean unplug from the situation. I mean unplug from the drugs that are allowing you to have this level of disassociation, right? Like unplug from the drugs that have been put in place to continue to feed your complacency. Like for people who love the movie The Matrix, this was it. This was the conversation that was being had over those series, is that there are people that are comfortable, find comfort, right, in being lied to, right, in remaining in their pods, right? And when faced with the reality, the harsh reality that freedom actually requires you to be conscious, you to be awake and to fight, when given those choices, half said no, right? And that's exactly the choice that we were given in 2024 in the election. And 77 million people said, I want to stay in my pod, right? And so I think that the best thing that people can do right now, yes, AI and those things can be used as tools, but they can also be used as drugs. And if you are not like conscious of how it is manipulating you versus you being the manipulator and using it as a tool, then you are going to continue to lose yourself, lose your energy, and like the apathy will continue to like take hold. And that is what they are hoping, right? And so, I think about this moment, and Jared, like, there are days when I am just like, I don't know how we make it through. I do know that there are communities, the Black community that I will point to, that has never lived inside of the fantasy of America, because America has never given them the option to live inside of this fantasy, where they weren't always on alert, where they weren't always aware of the dangers and the obscenities that is this country. Black people tried to warn white America what was coming, what they were capable of, the destruction that they were capable of, and they chose to turn their backs. And so I know that there will be people that make it to the other side because they have known struggle. They know what it means to survive. But for those that think that, again, burying their heads in the sand or in a device or in an AI model is somehow, and they can just wait it out, I got news for you. There is only one way for this to for us to take our power back and control back, and that is to move through, not around. Like, you can't escape this anymore. You have got to be able to fight through it. And that requires a level of resilience that large part of this country does not have.
Yes.
And that is the reality. And so, do I see Americans banding arms and fighting back in a way that can topple this? I honestly don't know. But what I do know, and you will be able to speak to, is that history shows us that these regimes don't last, that they oftentimes crumble from within. They implode under the weight of their own bullshit. Right? So I don't know. Do you think? I don't know, because I know that people come here for hope, and I know that people come here, for community. But do you think that we make our way through this? Do you think, I don't know.
I want to say two quick things, and then I want to answer your question because I think it is the essential question in the moment. First things first, I don't often recommend people to read or listen to Ezra Klein. Go look at the conversation between Ezra Klein and
Oh my God, it was so good.
Go look at Ta-Nehisi Coates speaking truth to him, and look at Ezra Klein, who comes from privilege, trying to navigate it in some way without that. Like, I think it was so instructive.
Oh,
I think that should be given to every American to understand what we're dealing with. Second thing, the AI thing that you just brought up and the hurricane idea, let's take those things together. If you know that the storm is coming and it stresses you out because the storm is coming, and you decide to use AI to numb yourself out before the storm, all you're doing is avoiding the discomfort that will eventually happen. Because, the minutes leading up to it, you're not going to be feeling that discomfort. You're going to be numbing out. The second that storm hits, that's the discomfort, right? It's coming. The final thing is this, and this, again, I remember, I think it was like our second or third episode, maybe fourth, who knows. And we had to talk about that the fear of dying is not the worst thing in the world, right? The idea that you might die, that like we're all going to die and you have to be able to reckon with it. Here is something that's going to sound a little bit harsh, but it's also, I think, the essence of hope in this situation. For years, I've been yelling about this. What's going on? I thought we might be able to avoid it. I've kept hope. I think that this regime is incompetent and transparently buffoonish. They are not capable of doing what we saw yesterday shows us. They're not capable of doing the actual hard work of being a dictatorship. The only way that we lose is if we let them win. That's it. But do I think Americans are going to shake off their privilege and come together in collective action? I don't know. I hope they do. But here's the good news. sometimes things fall apart. Sometimes things collapse, and sometimes that things get really weird and really hairy, and the things that you don't want happen. And you have a choice then, Danielle. You have a choice, which is, can I still live? Can I
Mm,
still find meaning? Like if things fall apart and things get really bad, like, can I rebuild? Can I find the things that matter to me? And that is finding meaning within yourself. And
mm,
that's the important thing. Listen, the Democrats aren't going to fucking help you. I mean,
no.
look at them. They're not going to fucking help. They're just not. The only way that party's going to change is if we change it. Are we going to? I'm trying to. You're trying to. Other people are trying to. Maybe at some point they'll be forced to change, but they're not going to change on their own. There's not going to be a hero on a white horse that's going to show up. I'm telling
Mm-mm.
you right now, if you're thinking about a military coup fixing this, go back and look up what happens with military coups. See what happens after it. The only thing that we can do is know ourselves, find the joy and happiness that we have been looking for all along, and figure out, like, I don't know if you and I are going to see the end of this. I don't know if we are. But there's something beyond us. Democracy is bigger than us. Human dignity is bigger than us. Love and care and clarity and joy are bigger than us. So I'm not going to give up, and I'm certainly not going to let these fuckers take it from me. So the only thing that we have is our own personal choices. And the good news here is that those personal choices, they radiate out and they change the world. That's it. And that's a hard thing to talk about, but it's not untrue.
I think that what I had to do a long time ago was, and I continue to practice it on a daily basis, is to remove my ego from this moment. The ego that tells me that what I'm fighting for, I must see the end of. And I think that we all need to remove our ego from this moment, that this is not about us being able to live inside of a free and fair country. It is about fighting for a free and fair country for our children, for our grandchildren, for future generations,
People will never.
right? It is about conjuring the spirit, the energy, and the clarity of our ancestors that fought to abolish slavery, that
Yes.
never saw the end of that brutal terrorist capitalistic operation, right? It is about people who fought for freedom that never got to taste freedom, but they continue to fight for it. We have got to be able to detach ourselves from our egos and the immediacy of our, desire to experience what it is and taste what it is that we are planting. And until Americans on whole can detach themselves from their ego and the necessity to eat from the tree that they are planting, we're never going to get anywhere, right? Like, this is not about us, right? This is about what we want for this country. It is not about restoring anything either. It is about creating something that is new, right? There is beauty in destruction. There are lessons inside of trauma. And until people understand the truth inside of that, we're not going to be able to create the collective force that is necessary to topple the inertia that is innate in people inside of this country.
A better future is not an Amazon next day delivery.
Come on.
Period. It's not. Democracy is not getting your groceries delivered. And that mindset is exactly what we're dealing with. Listen, John Brown didn't get to see the emancipation of slaves. The people who worked to end slavery, the abolitionists, many of them did not get to see the end of it. Martin Luther King, and I think that's actually something really disgusting that's happened. Martin Luther King talked about a future that he didn't know that he was going to see, and like, we have to learn, and this is it's extremely not Western. what we're talking about. Western is about the
Yep.
self. Western is about self-satisfaction and what a person gets. This is essentially Eastern philosophy, which is the idea that, like, you do the right thing because it's the right thing. If it benefits you, maybe it benefits you, but also if you do it for your own benefit, you're not doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're talking about here, and it really, what you were saying really got to me, and I'm feeling very emotional about it. And it's hard because it's like, and I always like to draw back the curtain because we have these conversations. I'm not doing great. I'm not nailing it right now. And I have moments where this like gets on top of me and I have to try and fight through it. Like nobody is. These are not ideal conditions. But even under and you know what happens under ideal conditions? It gives you every excuse to not do the work.
Yep.
Well, today's fine. So I guess nothing needs to change. Which, by the way, were the 1990s.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
oh, the economy was good. Well, fucking great. You know what? It also sucked and a bunch of people got hurt and things were leading in this direction. This is hard. It's really, really hard. But we have something here. We have the truth. We have clarity if we take it. And if you listen to it and you actually try, again, you said it, we might not see it. But that's not what's important. Life is not a happy movie. It doesn't, the credits don't roll and suddenly it's over. It's complicated. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. But you do it anyway. You dispel of these fantasies and the magical thinking and you do the hard fucking work. That's all we've got left.
It is. Honestly, it is all that we have left. And you know, another thing that I will offer to folks that are watching, read.
Yeah.
Read revolutionary work. Read, work by Audre Lorde. Read work by Assata Shakur, who just passed. Read work by Stokely Carmichael. Read work of revolutionaries who have been talking about this imperfect project of America and have been fighting for liberation for decades, right? Like you don't know what to do. Read, go down the banned book list, create a syllabus for yourself, like re-educate yourself, right? And let go of the indoctrination and find your courage and bravery in the texts of folks that left guidebooks behind.
Absolutely.
Do that.
I couldn't agree more. That's what you have to do. And also, by the way, it helps to center you and it helps to get away from all of it. Danielle, I appreciate you so much. It's so weird to say this, but since what happened yesterday happened, I've been waiting to talk to you about this. I knew that it would be a great conversation. I appreciate you so much.
Same, my friend. I appreciate you so very much. And we'll continue talking. We'll continue this conversation and pushing things forward.
All right, everybody. Be safe. Be good. Talk soon.